Join our community of learners today. Let's navigate through Business Central together and ace that MB-820 exam. Subscribe now. Just open up YouTube and in the search type Business Central Musings. And here it is. This is my channel. All you have to do is click subscribe. Hello everyone and welcome back to Business Central Musings. Today's topic is part of the MB-820 exam, and it refers to debug and deploy your extension in Dynamics 365 Business Central. MB-820 is an exam for a certification exam for Business Central developers. It's called Associate Developer certification. So it's supposed to test people that are writing AL code on a daily basis. MB-820 is not an easy exam. I would suggest for those that are not writing AL code every day to get an environment, a Business Central environment, either in cloud or on premise, or just create your own Business Central Docker container. It is going to be very difficult without actually working with Business Central and writing AL code on a daily basis to pass this exam. There are some questions that will be very easy and for a developer that writes code every day with the AL language, but there will be questions that are go deeper, and you need to be a seasoned developer in order to pass this exam. So I would suggest to first, if you're not writing code, AL code every day, get an environment, a BC environment, and get a book. There are plenty of books on Amazon that I can recommend. The best book for learning Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central is the first one on the list. When you go to Amazon, Dynamics 365 Business Central appears here, and it's all the list of all the books appears here, and the one coming from Stefano and Duilio is definitely among the best. This one from Eric is a book about it's a good book for Business Central consultants. I also have a book here. If you search for my name, Beyond the Ledgers, Cutting Edge Data Insights with Business Central and AI. Basically, the topics I covered in this book are related to data analysis and how data analysis can just pretty much give you a lot of insight into your data without going to Excel. So yeah, you can definitely have a few choices when it comes to Business Central books, but yes, the exam MB-820 is not an exam for somebody that just wants to be certified on BC and AL and crams the exam in a week or two and it passes the exam. I don't think this is gonna be a success story. You need to take at least 6 months and start writing AL code, and you might be successful. Spending 6 months writing AL code, it will it will definitely help you to pass the exam. And I have this experience of cramming or studying intensively a topic that I was never it was not my niche. It was not something I was doing every day. For example, I took 10 years ago two courses on Cisco routers and how to program Cisco routers. But it meant going to school at night once a week for 6 months. Yeah, in the end, I passed the exam. I was not the best in my class. I didn't get just a passing mark. I got a good mark. But what I'm trying to say is that learning AL and being certified on AL, it will take time. It's not gonna be something that you can immediately achieve. AL developers and Business Central developers are professionals that are paid quite well, and it's just normal to expect that becoming a certified AL developer is not something that's happening overnight. With that said, let's go into today's lesson and let's go through it. So regarding the debugging, there are a few areas that you need to know that can affect debugging, and one of these areas is app.json. App.json is one of the JSON files that gets created when you start with an AL project. And let's have a look at one right now. So we're looking now at app.json, at an app.json file in a project created a few minutes ago, and what I want you to focus on is this section of the app.json where we have a node, the resource exposure policy, with 3 properties in it: allow debugging, allow downloading source, and include source in symbol file. If allow debugging is true, that means that whoever is going to use our extension, which in my case is called AL Project 74, will be able to step through my code. And I've got here a few objects. So basically they will be able to see when all these objects, after they download the symbols of my app, they will be able to see the app under AL packages, and then just like I'm clicking now through the objects in Business Foundation, they will be able to click into AL Project 74 and see all the objects that I have here. If, let's say, the allow debugging is false, they won't be able to see it. They won't be able to see the objects, and they won't be able to put breakpoints in my code, or just to be stopped. They won't be able to see the code I have in all these objects. Allow downloading source is something that it is possible to download the source code if the allow download source code is true. And the way you do it is you would go to extension management, and in the extension management, so let's go to extension management, and we have here in the extension management a list of all the extensions. And if I was to look for one of my extensions, which is this one, the Project 74, I should be able to click on download source. Download source will generate a zip file that's going to be available for download, and once we download it locally, we can see the code. What about the other options? We have also allow debugging. We've seen allow debugging, and what is cool about allow debugging is that even if it's true, you can still set specific functions as non-debuggable. As you can see here, you can just put non-debuggable attribute for variables and some functions, and that will basically not allow debugging through those methods, or not allow debugger to inspect the values of those variables that are declared as non-debuggable. Then we have allow downloading source, and we discussed about that, how we can, if it's true, allow the downloading source, how we can bring the source code of that specific application locally. Include source in symbol file. If that's true, sometimes you get an app from a vendor as only the symbol file, but if you put true here, you will be able to get, when they give you the app file, they also give you the source code. If it's false, it's only the symbol file, and most of the vendors, the ISVs, will give you, you will have access only to the symbol file, but not the source code, which makes sense. Apply to dev extension. This is another property for resource exposure policy. Apply to dev extension means that if it's true, all the other settings here will apply to a dev extension. If it's false, then basically all the settings here are not going to apply to a dev extension. All these properties under resource exposure policy can be overridden with a secret BC resource exposure policy overrides. And if you want to learn more about it, you can navigate to this link, which where you can learn how you can allow access to a specific user. For example, you're a vendor, and you want to allow Microsoft or another partner to be able to debug your code. That will require you to create in your vault a secret BC resource exposure policy overrides, and the way you create, you as an ISV developer, you create your secret is by running this script, and basically the script is setting up a JSON with 3 properties: allow debugging, and here you have the user ID, user enter ID of the user that you allow debugging to. You allow him to debug, and then allow downloading source again. It's an enter, is the user's enter ID, the user that will be allowed to debug, and then include source symbol file is also a GUID, which is the GUID of a user enter ID, the user that you allow to debug. And then in a variable, that JSON is is converted to a secure string, and then the secret is copied into your key vault under the name BC-ResourceExposurePolicy-Overrides. Alright, let's move on. We have here, we looked at the app.json and we saw how we can set some of the properties in app.json, properties that have to do with protecting your code if needed. We also talked about the non-debuggable. You can, and maybe I should show you in VS Code. Let me see. In VS Code, we can go into any of the files that have AL code, and for example, if I don't want them to be able to debug do collectible error method, all I have to do is I can just add a property non-debuggable, and in this case the variable the function do collectible error method we won't be able to step in. Users or the developers extending my extension won't be able to access the code inside. The same thing we can do with a variable. We can set up my integer as a non-debuggable variable. Now let's move on next into Launch.json. So the next file important in debugging is Launch.json. Launch.json is a file that gets created automatically when you create a new project. It's under .vs code folder, and it has a bunch of properties. We're going to have a look at break on error property, break on record write, and startup company. Let's have a look. Let's open up app.json and Launch.json. As I said, Launch.json is under .vs code folder, and we've got here two configurations, but let's have a look at the first one, because we want to look at this property, break on error. It can have different values. For example, we want to have the debugger stop on all errors, for example, but we can also say we can have it to break on everything, exclude try, which means that if an error is encountered in a try section of the code, the breakpoint is no breakpoint is going to be triggered. None, it will never, the debugger will never break with this value none. False or true means this. It's false is kind of the same as none. It will the debugger won't be triggered, and true is kind of like all, but let's leave the default to all. Break on record write, it just means that every time we have a function that's calling insert, modify, or delete for any record variable, the debugger will break on that function that calls insert or modify or delete. The debugger can be launch browser. So whenever the web client is starting, we can have the debugger starting as well. And another nice property here is sometimes we have certain data that we want to test and we want to write our code with in a specific company. If you want your web client to go into that specific company, use startup company. If I go into a function that has, let's say, I have here a breakpoint on the line 27 that basically is supposed to display a message window. You notice I have a message to basically display the value of the variable I, which is an integer, and because it's a local variable, that means the value is 0 initially when we reach this line. But we can say in the edit breakpoint to break only if I is equal to 0. So if I was to debug this function, to debug this project, and let's try it with publish with debugging, the debugger will stop whenever the breakpoint is reached, and we can see we don't see the Business Central is not loading because we actually hit a breakpoint. And let's see where that breakpoint is. We reached this modify. Why? Because in VS Code we had in the Launch.json break on record write all. So let's move on next. And we reached this point here. Condition is equal to 0. I equal to 0 is it was satisfied, so we stopped on this breakpoint. But if let's say we're editing this breakpoint and we want to reach this breakpoint only when I is equal to 500, let's build and let's publish again. So we can see that even though we had a breakpoint here, because the condition was only when I is equal to 500, the debugger stopped on the next line because I have a breakpoint here without any condition, but skipped the previous line breakpoint because the condition was not met. Our I variable is equal to 0. So that is the section around breakpoints. We also have access to SQL metrics when debugging. So let's see that one in VS Code. On the debugger blade of VS Code, we have here a section, database statistics, and if we expand it, we have a few section, latency, current SQL latency, SQL executes, number of SQL rows and reads. We have also a section about logs, and this one, latest executed SQL statements. We can see what is the latest statement executed, and the previous one, and so on. We have a total of 10 SQL statements executed. It's been for some time already. We can debug system applications. So for example, I think I had breakpoint set up on our email outbox. If I look at on open, I have this breakpoint set up on email outbox page, load email outbox for user. So if we transition to the browser, and as soon as we attempt to open up that page, we can see in the debugger being stopped on the first line in the on open page. So the cool thing is that now we can stop on in the object of the system application extension, and that's very helpful because if we find bugs, or if we see improvements, we can contribute with improvements to the system application, and we can fork the system application and send our code to Microsoft for review and approval to go into system application. So that's another thing that we can do with debugger. Let's move on next to the next section. We can also attach to a web client, API, web service, or job queue, and that is done through a specific configuration. And let's see an example now in VS Code. If we look at Launch.json, the second configuration here is called attach, and basically it's the request, as you can see, is different than the one we had before, where we attach to the web client. Here the request is attach compared to launch, so it's attaching to an existing session. The session is identified via user ID property. The user ID property can be a username or the username or the GUID of a user. Let's move on next into the next section of our lesson today. There is also snapshot debugging. You can debug a snapshot, and about snapshot debugging, I have a blog. I spent some time and wrote a guide on how to debug a snapshot. This is good for production environments when you don't have publish with debugging or debug without publishing. So those would be use cases when you want to debug a production environment. So snapshot debugging, great for production environments. Let's move on next into the next section of the lesson of the MB-820 guide. Just like in the previous case, you can go to my website svirlan.com and search for RAD, Rapid Application Development. Let me show you here how I reach this place. Search. RAD, and this is the only blog post with rapid application development, and I will go through it quickly. It's a lot. I'm just gonna read you from the conclusions. Is useful when working on larger projects if you want to save time with the deployment during development. What it means is, imagine you're a developer on the base application. So you're a Microsoft employee and you're working on the base application. Base application has thousands of files. So to compile that big project, it will take time. And this is why working with RAD files with rapid application development is very useful. We saw what changes are logged in RAD.json. RAD.json will capture changes in AL files between builds. Once extension is published, either with rapid publishing or full publishing, RAD.json is cleared. There are moments when you're gonna clear the RAD.json and just follow the blog post, and you're gonna know, you're gonna learn about rapid application development. I'm just gonna go back for a second to VS Code and show you one thing. We can do Ctrl-Shift-P to bring up the command palette and just type rad. Well, rad is not good, but if we type rapid, maybe we should just stop debugger first, and then command palette, and let's see if rad this time brings up the options we have for rapid application development. We have rapid application published with debugging and rapid application published without debugging. So those are two commands that you can use if you want to take advantage of rad files, RAD.json, rapid application development. Let's move on back to another section for the debugging lesson is ALDoc tool. ALDoc is a tool that you can use to generate documentation for your application, for your extension. So again, I spent some time a year or two ago, and if we click on this link, post on my website, the post is Business Central ALDoc plus docfx, generate GitHub pages to host your AL documentation. And again, I'm gonna go quickly through it. There is also a YouTube video. You can go and watch it if you want. I'll have the link in my description, but let's read the final words on that blog post. If you're a developer working with Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central and you want to ensure that your extensions are well documented and easy to maintain, Business Central ALDoc and docfx are tools that can save you time and effort. Its ability to automatically generate comprehensive documentation and support custom comments within your code can greatly improve collaboration, understanding, and long-term sustainability. So if you haven't already considered integrating ALDoc into your development workflow to make the extension development process smoother and more efficient, a YouTube video on ALDoc, probably I can find it. It's already here. This is gonna be the video on as a repost. So it's not my machine, it's not localhost. We have it stored in GitHub. I'm just scrolling through the video, but bottom line is that for your extension, all your tables, all your pages, the code units, all the functions, all the code units, with ALDoc you can generate documentation that is accessible to everyone by going to a website generated with GitHub. Let's move on next. About performance toolkit, I won't say too much right now. I have a video on how to work with performance toolkit, and yes, it's a lot. I understand we've got lots of topics in one lesson, but yes, it's a lot to say about it, and I don't want to have this video too long. The last section of this video is about DMVs. If your app is missing indexes, then there is a page in Business Central for missing indexes. Just search for it in BC, and you're gonna see what indexes you might miss. There is also a Microsoft Learn page on missing indexes. Let's open it up. And go here, and yeah, you can read about it. The system has a SQL server automatically records statistics about your application and is able to provide you with a list of indexes that if you are creating them, your app might benefit of better performance. Database weight statistics. Again, you can search for database weight statistics and in Business Central, and you're gonna see all sorts of statistics related to obviously we don't want our processes to wait, and that page is will give you a good insights into why your application or your processes in your application has to wait. If we look at, for example, we search for weight statistics, and we see here already the link to the page. This page is based on so database weight statistics is based on a SQL DMV, dynamic management view. It's an object in SQL Server, and that gives you a good insight into where the application has to wait. For example, we look at these bigger numbers, it's idle. In wait time in milliseconds, it's idle. I also, because sometimes in my application I just go and for 5-10 minutes, and when you get back you're gonna see that message to click refresh to refresh the window. So basically the system was idle. We see service broker here, wait times in milliseconds. Yeah, so that's another good page to check how your system performs. Let's go back to the presentation for this lesson. We also have table information page. Let's bring up BC again. If we search for table information, we get some insights into the tables that are in our system, like the sizes of the tables, the sizes of the indexes. It takes a while because the system has to go through all the tables, but at some point it's gonna come back and we're gonna get we see the table name, we see the table number, we see the number of records, we see the record size, and we see, let's say enlarge here, we see the data size in kilobytes. Like if we were to sort descending. I see the tenant media thumbnails is one of the biggest ones. This is a small database. I don't have too many records. Calendar entry, it's because it's all populated. It's the table number is one of those system application or base application, I think, table. It's configured by Microsoft. We have in my company sample data, I have GL entry with a few records. VAT entry, this is because it's based on Kronos data, so again there is some data, but this is based on Kronos database, not much data in this table. We can go to settings and type code actions, and this is where you can enable code actions. That's it for today regarding the lesson around debugging with AL. Have a great week, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you. Bye.